You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Ask a Gettysburg Guide. Today we are talking about Biddle's Brigade. Biddle's Brigade. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and make sure that you have your notifications turned on. Also, if you use the Apple Podcast app, please leave a 5-star review. Reviews, liking, sharing, and subscribing are the best ways to help us grow our audience. And it's free for you. So there you go. You do a good deed and you don't spend a cent. Today, like I said, we're talking about Biddle's Brigade. With us, as always, or as often, is Charlie Fennell. Hello, Charlie.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Biddle's Brigade. Not many people know about Biddle's Brigade. Why is that?
Well, I don't know. They fight too close to the Iron Brigade.
Yes,
so
okay.
Everybody studies the Iron Brigade, and Biddle's kind of left out to dry there.
But they took quite a number of casualties. Quite a number of casualties.
They sure did.
Yeah.
Sure did.
Like 1,000 or so?
Well, they got 1,361 men at Gettysburg. And then the 5 regiments there. And according to our Busey and Martin, which is the source, 898 losses for respectable 66%. So basically what Pickett suffered.
Yeah, right.
Pickett's division, his brigade suffered around 2/3 losses.
So 66%, was this a veteran brigade? Were they experienced in combat?
Well, you had the 151st, which is a 9-month unit. I mean, they're going to muster out, June 27th?
Right,
July
27th, yeah.
The other ones have been in. I know the 80th New York was in for a while. But the 121st, the 142nd, they come in around the time of Fredericksburg, late 62. So I'd say, they're a fairly veteran unit by the time they get together.
So they've got some combat experience.
Yes.
The 80th New York, though, I think was the most veteran of them, right? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't originally a part of the brigade.
No.
They were added on the way up here. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where were they before?
They were in another brigade. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure which brigade they were in at that point, but they were in another brigade.
All right.
Obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So Biddle, Chapman Biddle is the commander, the colonel.
Right.
But he's not. On paper, it's not his brigade.
No, it's not.
Whose brigade is it?
It's Thomas Rowley.
Rowley.
Yeah, Pittsburgh boy.
Now, why is he not commanding the brigade?
Well, because Reynolds gets shot. And then everybody's got to bump up.
Okay.
So Doubleday will take the corps, and Rowley will take the division.
So Rowley is the senior brigade commander in the division.
Right.
Doubleday being the senior division commander in the corps? Or is he the senior on the field at the time Reynolds goes down?
In the first corps he is.
Yeah.
Remember, Howard's there when Reynolds goes down.
Right. Oh,
so
right.
He would be senior to Doubleday.
But when Reynolds goes down, all 3 divisions of the first corps aren't up yet.
Correct.
So I guess what I'm asking is, of the 3, is he still the senior, or is he the senior of the 2 that are there?
No, he's senior to Wadsworth and Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why then we know this as Biddle's Brigade, even though it's Rowley's brigade.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. So what happens to them? When do they get on the field?
There's a story.
Yeah.
They of course are part. They're brigaded with Stone's brigade. They didn't come in together though.
Okay.
Rowley came in and they go down. They get to the Black Horse Tavern somehow. They come in on the far left, probably to alleviate all the traffic that's coming in the Emmitsburg Road.
Okay.
And then they follow Willoughby Run, and they get to Marsh Creek on the Fairfield Road, almost behind the Confederate lines.
Right. But when I was reading that, I was like, what? Yeah.
And so they have to turn, and they advance towards the Union position as if they were Confederates advancing.
Right.
And they get along the Fairfield Road, and they get to McPherson's Ridge, and they form in the road facing north.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they form in the Fairfield Road facing north.
They're in the Fairfield Road. There's elements of what is it, the 8th Illinois, I believe, have some companies there that are watching the flank of the Union infantry line.
Because by this point, Gamble's brigade has moved over to cover the left?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The thing to keep in mind, though, when they're marching down the road, they're getting fire from artillery, Confederate artillery at Hers Ridge.
Right. Yeah, they're noticed.
Yeah, they
they're
are
not
noticed,
just sneaking by there.
No, and they notice that, of course, the Confederates are over there.
Because what might be confusing today to someone who's familiar with where we're talking about, the Fairfield Road, you can't, if you're on the Fairfield Road now, there's trees and houses, and you can't see Hers Ridge from there.
Not really.
But back then, you wouldn't have had all the tree cover
it's
that we have
all
now.
open farmland.
Yeah. So Hers Ridge, you would be able to see these guys walking there.
Yes.
See, and I think that's the thing that most people that are especially that are new to studying the battle seem to. It's hard to imagine this, but it's hard to subtract things that you see,
Right?
Because you don't know what's on the other side of those trees. You don't know what it looks like. So I mean, like intellectually or academically what's there,
Right.
but you've never seen it, so you can't fill that in, even if you could take those trees out.
Right.
So so that's a thing that's hard to remember, is that there wasn't as much tree cover then as there is now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or buildings.
Or buildings, especially.
The only thing that's really there that was there then is the ridge.
Right. Well, and well, we were up in the cupola Thursday night, and I mean, it was dark, but when you go up there, they have the Tipton photos taken from there of all 360 degrees, and there's nothing. I mean, you could see for miles and miles. If you go up there today, you can only see, like Cemetery Hill, you could just see the features that you would be able to pick out, like the water tower.
Right.
But the detail of it, it's all shrouded with trees and buildings.
Exactly.
And the whole town that's right immediately in front of you wasn't there at the time of the battle.
Correct.
It was open farmland.
Exactly.
So that's another thing that you have to keep in mind is when you're reading about the retreat or something. Like, they had more room to just run.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just, at that point at least, they weren't relegated to the streets.
Yeah, the borough's limit was West Street.
Right.
It was the last street to the west, so we called it West Street.
Now, West Street today isn't West Street of that time. Is that correct?
It's pretty close, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, I think someone told me that Franklin Street used to be West Street, but then as the town grew, they changed West Street.
They moved it out. Yeah.
To what it is now.
But when they were in a battle, that was the edge of town.
Franklin Street would have been West Street. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So go ahead. So they get on the field.
Yes.
And first they're facing north on the Fairfield Road. Yeah. They're taking fire. That's where we left off.
Okay. Then they're gonna move towards the flank of the First Corps. Now remember, they're lined up initially on McPherson's Ridge. There's two. There's the west and the east.
Right.
Okay. And they're going to line up there to support the left flank of the Iron Brigade. Stone has moved on the other side of the Iron Brigade. So what you have is a real confusing mess in terms of command and control, because you got Biddle's brigade, which is in the 3rd Division. Then you got the Iron Brigade, which is in the 1st Division. Mm-hmm. And then you got Stone, which is in the 3rd Division.
Right.
And then you got Cutler, which is in the 1st Division.
Yeah. Okay. It's a big mess.
So the only division of the First Corps that actually fights together would be Robinson.
Right.
When they moved them to extend the line north when the Confederates come down from Biglerville and Oak Hill. So what they're going to do is they're going to advance, and they were deployed on the ridge initially, where their monuments are, basically. Mm-hmm. They're going to be taking fire there from artillery and also some Confederate sharpshooters, which they were kind of upset about. And so they're going to move eventually. Some moved down towards the Willoughby Run. They sent the 80th New York. There was 2 companies, I think it was G and K, actually crossed Willoughby Run and got into the Harmon Farm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
It was cleared the Confederates out of that, and then held on to it. So they're actually using that as kind of I guess, an advanced fortified skirmish line. Okay.
You're correct, Gene Cray.
G&K. It was G&K? Mm-hmm. Okay. But anyway, that's the only thing I said was correct so far. they're still going to be taking some fire from artillery. And so they moved back to the ridge, and then they went on the other side, reverse slope, deployment. So they're on the eastern side of the ridge. In other words, behind where their monuments
are.
The ridge gave them protection,
sure,
at least from fire from there. And then all of a sudden, here comes the oddly bird-like man, General Ewell, and his men, Rhodes' division. They come in up there at Oak Hill, and they're going to fire right up the ridge.
Yeah.
so now what do you do? And so I think that's why they have that exploding shell on the 121st.
On the monument, yeah.
So where they went, there's artillery fire.
Oh, God.
So then they're going to move back up to the front and go down the Willoughby Run there for a time, and eventually they're going to have to come back.
So when I was reading about this and all the movements and everything, in my head, the Benny Hill song was playing. Because it's just like they're moving all over the place. They're facing north and and then don't they go to the other side of the Fairfield Road at one point?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they did.
And then they came back.
They came back.
So they get to McPherson's Ridge.
Yeah,
and then they go across the Fairfield Road to the south side.
When they were getting enflated from Oak Hill, they decided, let's go back at the road. And, it's one of them thought that, Rowley, you ever see a picture of Rowley?
Yeah.
In Generals in Blue? He has a notorious reputation as a drinker.
Yeah.
And I looked at that picture, and he looked like he was drunk when he got the picture taken. And they thought maybe it was Rowley was drinking. And of course, we know he was, but maybe he just didn't understand the orders. But they're doing more maneuvering. I mean, it's almost like the dance of death they're doing over there. You're trying to find a safe spot to put the brigade.
I mean, if I were one of those Confederate gunners up on Hers Ridge, I'd be laughing. I'd be like, what are they doing now? Like it doesn't even make sense.
Where are they going?
Right. Okay, but they're McPherson's Ridge. They're to the left of the Iron Brigade.
Yeah, or
right?
south. Yeah,
south, right?
Left. Yep.
And they got those two companies out at the Harmon Farm.
Right.
Obviously, they don't stay there for very long, do they?
Not until Pettigrew starts to advance.
So Pettigrew advances, and then they leave the farm.
Yeah, they better.
Yeah, I think they're surrounded on three sides, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So then. What then? What? How does it progress for these guys?
Well,
one of the regiments I know that we have a couple of listeners who are fans of is the 151st PA.
Oh yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
Great outfit.
At first, though, they're detached as a reserve, right?
Doubleday. I don't know if he was encouraged to do this by Reynolds, but he sent them in reserve.
Okay.
Now he did have Robinson's division as a general reserve to the Corps initially, but they're going to be moved to Oak Ridge to extend the line to prevent, Ewell's men from getting easy access to the rear of the First Corps line along McPherson's ridges. So they're going to extend the line, and there's no available reserve, so they sent the 151st, and probably because they're new, they're green, so to speak, they haven't seen much combat, they're due to go home in 3 weeks. How excited are they going to be shot?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so if you're going to form a reserve, that might be a good one to do because they are the biggest regiment in the brigade and one of the biggest regiments in the Corps.
Yeah, they have like almost 500 men, don't they?
Yeah, let me look here. 467.
There you go.
Yeah, there was another guy, but he got lost on the way up. All that moving around. So there's 467 of them that were actually engaged in the fighting.
Right.
Yeah.
So for a while they're going to be out of the fun.
They're going to be back. They're going to go in front of the Seminary building. Robinson's men evidently had thrown some fence rails together, sort of piled them up as a sort of a temporary breastwork.
Right.
They're going to form in there.
Okay.
It would be kind of where the parking lot is today, if you're acquainted with the Seminary.
Sure.
Right there in front of the Seminary, and out a little beyond the parking lot is where they had these.
And that's where Paul's Brigade put those up.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, meanwhile, at the front on the line,
yes.
Who's coming at them?
Well, initially, you're going to see when Lee arrives, he's a little upset. There's a battle going on. You saw the movie, right?
Yes, yes.
Did you not understand the orders? But anyway,
the situation is very confused.
It is confused.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in Biddle's brigade. But the other point to be made is that he's encouraged by the fact that his men are coming in from a number of different directions. The Union can't cover them all.
Right.
Okay, so eventually he's convinced of the wisdom of giving his men free rein to attack the Union line, and so Harry's division, I don't call him, Lee didn't know whether it was Heath or Heth either, so he called him Harry. And so Harry Heath's division,
he couldn't just ask him. You would think.
You would think he would.
You've got
but he was one of the
proximity.
few generals that he referred to by his first name.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay,
and,
that's interesting.
Yeah, and so he gave them permission to attack. Now, Heath has been reorganizing his division since the initial contact.
Right.
Archer and Davis kind of got a bloody nose there on the first day running into Union infantry. Where'd they come from?
Right, right.
Okay, so he moves them off to the sides, and he put in Pettigrew and Biddle. Okay, now Pettigrew has four.
No, Pettigrew and.
Or excuse me, Pettigrew and Brockenbrough.
Okay.
It's a B word.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brockenbrough.
Yeah, there you go.
Brockenbrough's brigade is fairly small, maybe 1,100 at the most.
Right.
Where Pettigrew's is huge, around 3,000.
That is big, yeah.
Yeah, and four of the regiments.
Because he has the 26th North Carolina.
He does. That's the largest regiment on the field.
Right.
Either army.
That's like a third of the brigade.
Yeah, 829 people.
Yeah.
The other regiments, now the 26th had seen some action in the peninsula. The other ones are fairly green. Okay, so they're enthusiastic. They want to get in this,
Yeah.
They were defending New Bern. That's where I'd want to be, New Bern.
Yeah,
There's
me too.
11 Yankees there. You could defend it fairly easily.
Right.
So the war wasn't there at that time. So they're enthusiastic. It's almost like a division. Pettigrew's brigade equals a Union division, pretty much at Gettysburg.
Jeez, can you imagine?
I know, and it's huge. And so they're going to make the initial assault on what is the first corps line of McPherson's Ridge. Okay. Their line overlaps the Union position. Now, Pettigrew does the bulk of the fighting. For some reason, Brockenbrough got behind him. He moved his brigade behind him, and then eventually he had to straighten out because to try and chase Stone off the ridge. But basically, and I forget the order. I think it's the 26th is on the left of the brigade, so they're gonna
be in the woods.
Yeah, they're gonna hit Herbst's Woods,
right?
And they're gonna fight with the Wisconsin troops and certainly the 24th Michigan. Okay, and then the other regiments are lined out almost to the Fairfield Road.
Okay.
So if you're with Biddle, you got a good view of this.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a Confederate line, and you're looking at it, and it overlaps yours.
Right.
There's no doubt about it overlaps you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and one of the things that you also need to understand, and you can see this if you look at a competent map, the battle is the Iron Brigade is forward. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're like in an advanced position. They're not right on the ridge. They're in front of it along Willoughby Run.
Yes.
And so the 19th Indiana has no one on their immediate left either, except Biddle, who is, well, let me look. Figured out in my head here. Maybe 300 to 400 yards behind.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Behind the left of the 19th Indiana.
Behind and the 19th Indiana, if memory serves.
That would be Biddle's right flank. That's
Biddle's right flank. Yeah, and that would be at the time the 80th New York. I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. There, because the 151st is still back at the Seminary.
Right.
Okay. And the 19th Indiana is the smallest, regiment in the Iron Brigade. They have 288 men.
Okay.
When the battle starts.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're
don't want to be on the flank, being
that's
small.
Where they are,
like that,
and they were moved over there, I guess, when they reorganized the Iron Brigade's line. They took the second Wisconsin, which made first contact, and took some pretty high casualties.
Right.
They slipped them into the center of the line, and then put the 7th Wisconsin on the right.
Got it.
And then the 24th was it's about a third of the Iron Brigade.
Okay. Yeah.
It's 496 men in that regiment. So they're in an advanced position. So Biddle's trying to support their flank while worrying about his own. So when Pettigrew's men strike, there's a tremendous firefight. Now Biddle's men were initially behind the ridge, but once the Confederates cross Willoughby Run and start to maneuver towards the flank of the 19th Indiana, they have to advance.
Okay.
And there's a number of different accounts, but I'll use the one that Biddle's, the 121st, that would be Alexander Chapman, Alexander Biddle. He's a cousin of Chapman Biddle.
Lieutenant Colonel.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel. Mm-hmm. He said we walked up and fired right into their faces.
Yes.
Okay, and that
like
staggered
150 yards away.
Yeah, they're blasting away up there, and they're standing out there in the open. Now, one of the things that you got to keep in mind is that the Confederate artillery won't be firing so much on them now, but for fear of hitting their own men.
Right. Okay.
So once they advance.
So now it's just small arms fire.
Yeah. So the right of Pettigrew's brigade, it's 52nd North Carolina. I should have wrote that down. I always get it confused. But anyway, they swing around and will flank the 121st Pennsylvania.
Right.
They get across their flank.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
52nd North Carolina.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
They're on the extreme right.
Yeah.
And they're gonna start to bend this unit back, and eventually they're gonna have to give it up. They can't stay there and survive. So they're going to start to go. Then the 142nd gets flank fire. They're going to start to withdraw. Cummings, who's their commander, will order an attack, ill-advised, of course, to try and slow down the Confederate advance. He's killed in that attack.
Is he the one that all the Confederates said that his soldiers swarmed him like bees?
Bees,
to the queen?
that's right. They got around him.
Yeah.
There to see if they could protect him or get him off. I think they did try and carry him off, and a couple of them got shot. Yeah. So they said, well,
you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
That's true. There, and so that's going to uncover the 80th. Flank of the 80th. By this time, the 151st has been ordered forward in a way to cover both the right of Biddle's brigade and the left of the Iron Brigade. So they're going to go, most of them go into Herbst's Woods. Okay.
Yeah.
The bulk of the regiment's in the woods, but we know the woods were very little cover because they were more open, and you got close combat. Okay, so they're going to take on part of the 26th North Carolina, I believe the 11th North Carolina.
You're talking the 151st now, right?
Yeah, the 151st. There's in the woods there, Colonel McFarland.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're, for those aficionados of the 151st, they're from Berks, Juniata, and Susquehanna counties in Pennsylvania. They're known as a school teachers regiment because one company had some school teachers in it.
Right.
Okay.
Some, not all.
No, that wasn't all. I'm pretty sure it wasn't all school teachers.
So it was just...
But that was, I think, McFarland's original company. He was a school master. We call him superintendent today.
Okay.
School superintendent. And one story I read is he suggested that if they wanted their jobs back after the war, they better enlist in the company. I don't think that's true, but it's a great story nonetheless. But anyway, he's the colonel of it, and he's on horseback, and his men eventually. And I would argue with anyone, they're the last to leave the woods.
Okay.
There's a big argument over Iron Brigade or Biddle or the 151st. I think the 151st held the woods longer than the remnants of the Iron Brigade. Now, remember, the Iron Brigade's fighting all the way back from Willoughby Run. So they're taking casualty after casualty after casualty. 24th Michigan, 496 men in the action, 363 casualties. So the vast majority of those are on the first day.
Right.
Okay, vast majority there. And they're going to be almost surrounded as the Iron Brigade pulls back, and then eventually Brockenbrough finally figures out where to go, and he's going to move into the McPherson farmyard, and this is Stone's stuck out there like a sore thumb. He's got Confederates from Rhodes' division coming in on his right, and he's got Harry's boys coming in from the west, so he's stuck between the rock and a hard place. He eventually has to get out.
So the Iron Brigade thinks the 151st is their relief.
Yes,
right? And so they start pulling back.
That's one of the accounts that they thought, here comes our relief.
Yeah,
and of course by this time the 19th Indiana's flanked and they're pulling back.
Right.
Yeah.
So the poor 151st, they're just out there all by themselves.
Eventually, that's correct. Yeah, because the Iron Brigade's just taking off.
It's going to leave.
And they get fired on from three different directions.
Right.
And so they take a lot of casualties getting from McPherson's, East McPherson's Ridge, or the Herbst's Woods, Reynolds Woods.
Right.
Yeah, because they named him Reynolds.
The Woods.
The Woods, because he was killed there.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd prefer someone else to have the honor, but that's just the way it worked out.
Yeah.
And so they're going to withdraw back into the front of the Seminary, go back to the breastworks that they had left earlier, what's left of them. Mm-hmm. Now, McFarland's still mounted. He's still on his horse.
Good for him.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, really.
And I think that is a result of two things. One, the confusion of the moment, and of course, the smoke.
Of the smoke.
Especially in the woods.
Yeah.
Because the trees are going to hold the smoke.
Sure, yeah.
So, Yeah.
Jeez. All right. So they eventually pull back, though, to the seminary.
That's correct.
And it's not over yet.
It's not, no.
No. What happens there?
Well, Pettigrew's boys are kind of played out at this point. They've probably taken close to 1,000 casualties. We estimate about 40% losses in Pettigrew's brigade on July 1st, but it's uneven. It's uneven. The two regiments on the right take a lower percentage, and the 26th North Carolina. I read somewhere once, it probably came in a dream, but anyway, that they suffered 551 casualties.
Just in the woods.
Just on July 1.
So not the whole 3 days, just there in the woods.
Yeah, because I think I read an account once of one of the, where the guy said we came with 829 men, and when we left, 89 could still walk. Company F, I'm pretty sure it's Company F, they had over 70, almost 80 men in the company, 100% losses.
Jeez.
100%. One company had 98. They have 4 people left. Okay, so and the flag the colonels, both colonels go down. 24th Michigan,
right?
And our good friend there from
Fry. No. The hell's the kid's name?
Burgoyne.
Henry
Burgoyne.
Henry, yes.
21 years old.
Yeah.
21 years old, carrying the flag.
Yeah.
Was it 10 guys touched the flag, killed or wounded?
There's a 13, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, when you eventually get to, colonel, and then you get a staff officer.
Right.
Came up and grabbed the flag. Down he goes. Okay.
Who are these people that come and grab the flag after the flag bearer goes down?
I don't know, man. I'd start distancing myself.
Brave or crazy? I don't know.
A little bit. I mean, the blood's up. It's a great honor. It's a great honor. You don't have it for long.
No, you don't.
You don't have it for long. Okay.
God, I wouldn't do that, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
But all right, so it's mostly against the Iron Brigade that they're taking their casualties.
Oh, absolutely,
you're saying
sure.
Here.
Yeah, well, the 151st are going to exact the price too.
Okay.
You know, once they get the Iron Brigade out of the way and get after them.
Now, I think I read somewhere that the 151st was told, McFarland told them, not to be firing by volleys or files or anything, just, every man for himself.
Right, he did.
Fire at will, because he really worked them with target practice prior to the battle.
Yes, he did. One of the few regiments that had that.
Yeah, so he was pretty good they were pretty good with target shooting.
Yes. And
they were good. So he just trusted them to pick their targets and take them down.
It's hard to give commands anyway.
Yeah.
The noise of the battle had to be just.
Yeah, I would imagine there's a certain point where it's just like, have at it, boys.
Yeah, shoot what you can.
Yeah. All right, but eventually, so we were back at the seminary. So they're back at the seminary. Everybody's back there,
right.
Safe and sound.
Correct.
Well, not everybody, but those who make it are safe and sound for now.
For the moment.
Confederates, do they stop the attack, or do they keep it going?
They do till what you have is Pettigrew's men are played out. So Pender's will begin to advance his division through Heath's division.
Okay.
And he's going to attack with 3 brigades there, Scales, Perrin, Lane. Thomas is kind of in reserve. I think the dance of death that Biddle did kind of made the Confederates aware that maybe their right flank needs to have some security, and plus you still have elements of the 8th Illinois,
right?
And of course a lot of Gamble's brigade is going to be in the fields to the south of the Fairfield Road. Remember, Lane was supposedly advancing and saw these mounted cavalrymen, and there's an account where he formed a square.
Right.
You can't advance in a square.
Right. Very uncomfortable.
So this was a real problem, and I think we can credit a little bit of that to, a lot of it to the fact that the cavalry are there. Here's another example of where the Confederates could have used Stuart's cavalry on the field. They could have swept that flank and cleared it off, and Pender then would have been able to use his full strength, all four brigades. He essentially attacks with 2. Okay, Scales, North Carolinians, Perrin, South Carolinians. They're going to come advancing across the swell between the 2 ridges, McPherson's Ridge and Seminary Ridge, and Scales' men are going to take horrific losses because of the artillery.
Right.
There's like 18. I counted as 21 guns.
So give them a salute.
Yeah, they gave it. Yeah, it was kind of funny that way, Yeah. But anyway, there's 21 guns deployed on the ridge. From Stuart all the way down to what would be Reynolds batteries, commanded by Breck or Beck or somebody like that. But anyway, you got Brecht, that's a guy. Yeah. And they're interspersed, but most of them are along the pike, up near the Kraut House.
Brecht was by the Kraut House.
No, he's down. He's down more by the Schmucker House.
Okay.
Yeah, not Smucker.
Close
Schmucker.
Enough. Well, so you're saying from basically Mrs. Thompson,
yes,
down to just south of the intersection there. On Confederate Avenue and
the Fairfield Road.
The Fairfield Road, yeah.
Yeah,
is that what you're talking?
116, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that the Union infantry line extended to the road. I don't think
I've seen that in any of the maps. But wasn't there a battery down there?
That's what I mean. There was at least a section.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, 2-gun battery.
And then you have Gamble.
And you have Gamble
guarding that.
Supposedly, someone got behind a stone wall there at the Schultz house.
Okay.
Dismounted behind that stone wall.
That's that house, ladies and gentlemen. It's right on the corner of Confederate Avenue and the Fairfield Road, right at the light there. That big mansion, awesome looking.
It's one with a face on it.
Yes.
You can actually talk to it. It's got a big sunburst right on the.
That's when I make my $3 million. I'm going to buy that house.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I have a lot of plans for when I make my millions.
Well, invite me over.
I better get cracking at it, though. I'm almost at retirement age. All right.
Yeah. So what you have then is a Perrin's men. Perrin ordered his men to not fire. He wanted them to keep going, and eventually the 14th and the 1st will break through between the Schmucker House and the Seminary building, which has a cupola on it. Now, once again, history repeats itself on this ridge because the First Corps line's outflanked to the south again by this time by the South Carolinians. So they're going to roll it up at that point again. Okay.
So do you think that the general retreat started there, or do you think it started over on the right with Howard's men?
Okay, here's what I figured out. For whatever reason I figured it out, I did. The initial retreat starts at McPherson's Ridge.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Pettigrew blows them off the ridge back to the Seminary.
Okay.
There they rally.
Uh-huh.
Okay, then they could see the 11th Corps being rolled up.
Aha.
Okay, and so
because you could back then.
Yes.
You could see all the way across.
You can't see it from McPherson's Ridge.
Right.
So
but you can from the Seminary. Without even having to go to the cupola in 1863.
No, you don't have to go up there. Lee didn't go up there. He didn't have to.
You didn't need to.
Yeah.
But today you do.
Yeah. You do. Even then you can't see it like you could then.
No. But when you do go up there, then just again you subtract what's there, and you can. You're like, wow,
so
you can see everything.
That's the progression I see.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
Because Robinson's on the ridge the whole time. I mean, he was unaffected by the 11th Corps being pushed off McPherson's Ridge. He's not on that ridge.
Right.
He's on Oak Ridge.
Right.
And, the way he's looking down there at the 11th Corps line because he's behind a nice stone wall on a ridge, open fields of fire. It's great as long as the enemy's not on the same side of the wall as you are. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's essentially what happens. And there's a lot of accounts where the 1st Corps saw the 11th Corps break.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can't do that. I mean, these are in accounts from Doubleday's men, some from Biddle.
Right.
You can't see that from McPherson's Ridge.
Right.
You can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That sounds that's like a fair assessment. It sounds pretty reasonable.
It sounds logical, but this is a battle. So maybe we're trying to introduce too much logic.
That's the thing. You can't. But okay. So Biddle's brigade, though, they're at the Seminary. There's some fighting that goes on for sure,
yes.
right? But are they pushed back? Are they wiped out? What do they win? What do they do?
They made a determined stand. Scales' men were basically his whole brigade was rocked by the artillery fire.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
coming across the field.
Yeah. Scales is wounded there. Most of his field officers are down at that point. Perrin's one was the one that continued the advance and was able to unhinge the Union. But the 151st made a determined stand in front of the Seminary.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is where McFarland gets wounded. He's wounded in the leg. They take him into the Seminary, where he eventually has his leg amputated.
Mm-hmm.
He's left there. Okay, when the Confederates retreat, they leave him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so he's among those nearly 500 wounded that were packed in the Seminary like sardines, along with Kemper and Trimble, who were left there
right.
As well.
Later on.
And then eventually they began to move these people out to other conflicts, because that's a seminary. I mean, they have students, they
Sure.
have classes.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like, come on, guys.
And that was the dorm. The classes were either held in the Schmucker House or they were held in the Kraut House.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that was more of a dorm and a cafeteria type place, you know.
If you go there to the museum today, the third floor is all dedicated to the medical aspect. The fourth floor is the first day, right, Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And,
work your way down.
Yeah, work your way down.
Cupola, then you go to the battle, then you go to the hospital, then you go to the seminary,
Right.
and then you go to the bookstore,
Right.
a gift shop.
Yeah.
It's great. It's all laid out. Lutherans have it
Perfect.
together.
They know how to do it.
They do it, and they did a good job.
No,
Don't get
it's
me
a
wrong.
great job.
It's a great museum.
The medical floor is my favorite. Eric's favorite is July 1st. That's my second favorite, but
Yeah.
the medical floor is fascinating.
I like the flies.
The flies.
Oh yeah, you see flies?
No.
Yeah, they're hanging on the fishing cord, fishing wire.
Oh, in the little vignettes
Yeah,
they have set up? No, I didn't notice the flies.
Yeah, I have to go look.
Oh, yeah, now I gotta go look back at that.
They had them like they're flying around.
Ah, that's brilliant. No, I didn't.
They might not
notice
be
it.
there now. I don't
Oh,
know if
maybe they
still
took them
there.
down.
Yeah,
Maybe people thought it was too
Well-
gross.
they were the only ones that acknowledged that there were flies.
Yeah, I see. I was thinking that too when we were looking at it. I'm just imagining just laying there because they didn't really get any kind of attention for a day or two, didn't they?
It was tough because the surgeons have a lot of business.
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of business. It's interesting to note, though, and this is what I learned when I went to the museum, that McFarland was the last one to leave the hospital.
Uh-huh.
And it was September 15th, 1863.
Right.
And his wife, see, he's from Juniata County, which isn't that far away.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife and two daughters came to stay with him. And according to what they told me at the seminary, it's the only time that women were permitted in the dorm at the Lutheran Seminary.
Well, they have that scene set up.
Yeah,
there.
they do.
That's the scene they have
it's
set
a
up.
very good museum.
Yeah, it's a great museum. I love it.
Yeah.
Did you see? There's a bullet that's kind of mangled, and it was taken out of a guy's jaw. It got shot in the jaw.
Uh-huh.
But it has his beard hair in it still.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And I think it was from the 151st PA.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
They were actually fighting in the building.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because the door that most people assume is the front of the building today wasn't there then. That's the back of the building.
The back door, yeah.
Yes, yeah. They went in. The Union troops, when Perrin's men flanked the left of their line at the seminary, some of the Union soldiers, in order to get away, ran in the dorm.
Uh-huh.
And the Confederates went in after them.
Right.
And so they're shooting at one another the length of the building.
Jeez.
And the Northerners went out the other door, which would be the northern side of the building,
Right.
and then
Okay.
joined the retreat back into the town.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how anybody could hear after the war.
You ever see the old reunions that got those little pipes stuck in their ears?
Yeah.
You know? I did a study when I was at West Virginia University for a class, and the guy told me, he gave me a couple of newspapers. One was the National Tribune, and he told me, look at the advertisements. Tell me what they're advertising. And these were veterans magazines and newspapers. And what I found was that the three top things that they were advertising was hearing aids, painkillers, and artificial limbs.
That makes sense.
Okay, so those were the top three advertisements in these magazines.
So there was a lot of hearing loss.
Yes,
I
not
would
only with the artillery.
Sure. Oh, yeah, no. I mean, I would expect hearing loss.
Right.
I don't know how anybody could hear at all.
During the battle.
No.
Yeah,
After the war. Like, how,
yeah,
I mean, you're in one battle, thousands of muskets going on, shells bursting over your head. Yeah. How are you? And then you're shooting down a hallway?
Yeah. You're in the front line, a guy's musket muzzle standing right by your ear.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a wonder anybody could hear. I don't know. Yeah. All right, so let's finish out the battle then for Biddle's brigade. Okay. So the retreat. Yes. Or is there anything you want to add before we get to the retreat?
Let me think.
Okay. Where we got into the seminary.
No, when they joined the general. Oh, we got to talk about Rowley, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Rowley's rip-roaring now. He's had it all day to get drunk.
That's right. Okay. He's been day drinking, as they say.
Oh my gosh, he must have started early. But anyway, during the retreat, of course, Rowley was given incoherent orders and acting in the most animated way there as they're retreating off the ridge. If you come down to where Cadore Memorials is located today, there's a
Middle Street.
Yeah, there's a little run there.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can see it if you go on. What is that? That's High Street? You go to High Street by the cemetery, and you can see how it's really eroded. You know, it's a chasm. Okay, so it's not like you just walk your horse across. You got to jump it.
Right.
Well, Rowley is unstable in the saddle as they're going down the retreat. That would be the Fairfield Road.
Right.
They're coming down the Fairfield Road, and Rowley's horse, when he tried to get him to jump, stopped. Rowley didn't. And of course, he wasn't wearing a seatbelt,
right.
so he flies over top of the horse into the run itself. So not only is he covered with the grime of the battle, but now he's got mud on him.
Yeah, he's so wet.
This just made him even more animated. And allegedly, as they're going through the town, the First Corps is coming in from the west. The 11th Corps is coming into town from the north. And eventually, they're going to come to an intersection. And the 11th Corps was going along the line. I think it was Washington Street.
Okay.
They're going, towards Cemetery Hill.
Right.
On Washington Street.
Is that the way they came in?
Some of them did. Now, some Barlow's men used Baltimore Street. Mm-hmm. Okay, but the rest of them, Church's division and.
Some did come down to Baltimore Street.
Yeah, they did. Barlow.
Yeah,
Barlow's.
I mean, when they were retreating.
And so Coster used both Baltimore and Stratton.
Right.
Okay. But anyway, as they're coming, supposedly Rowley went up and stopped the 11th Corps to allow his men to get into the road and continue the retreat.
Oh, geez.
Okay. This is what happened. And of course, he was eventually brought up on charges after the battle for conduct unbecoming an officer, cowardly action. There's about 4 or 5 different. I have the thing. I should have brought it along. I could have read it to you. All the charges. But these were preferred. These were preferred by officers of the 11th Corps. Officers of the 11th Corps. Now, this is interesting. He was actually court-martialed. Okay, here on April 23rd, 1864.
Okay.
But I didn't get him for cowardice or anything like that, but, for conduct unbecoming an officer, gentleman, and drunk on duty, whatever they want to call it, And what happened was Stanton, who was Secretary of War, disapproved the sentence. He just nullified it. Okay? And Rowley then was assigned to command the district of the Monongahela, which is Pittsburgh.
Which is out
that way. And that's where he finished the war. There's a Rowley Boulevard in Pittsburgh.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now he's a Mexican War veteran too. So
okay.
I mean, he had a lot of service. I think they wanted to, not punish him too badly.
Well, isn't that how government goes? You fail upwards.
What rises to the top?
Right.
Promote them up and out, and you can get rid of someone you don't like.
Yeah.
And they're happy because they got a promotion.
Sure.
So they're not going to complain.
No, everybody's happy.
I think that's still fairly common.
Oh, I know it is.
It's not a little bit in industry too, although there you don't have a safety net like you do with the government.
Right.
If you're not performing, you're not.
No, eventually the industry will get rid of you.
Yeah.
Because they fear the public.
Yes.
Government doesn't fear the public anymore.
Yeah. I guess not.
Unfortunately. All right. So a question I meant to ask you before.
Sure.
Biddle's Brigade, as we said, comes in Black Horse Tavern Road kind of, and then the Fairfield Road, and there's that whole weird thing that they do when they come in there. But when they retreat, they're not retreating. They're not retreating the way they came in.
No, they're not.
So they don't know where the hell they are.
True enough.
Right.
True enough. Yeah.
There's other.
Does anyone?
Well, I was going to say, there's other First Corps units that don't know where they are because they retreat a different way than when they came in.
They didn't come through the town.
No.
You don't go through the town. Even today, too many lights.
Exactly.
You get tangled up in the streets, that sort of thing. So Reynolds, when he brings them out, he told them to get off the road near the Cadore farm.
Right.
And they're going to go out across the fields. They're going to pass the Schmucker house.
Mm-hmm.
there to the south of the Schmucker House and then go into the fields to go out into the woods where they make their initial contact with the Confederates. So when they retreat into the town.
Yeah.
These guys haven't been in town before.
Right. Right.
So there's a lot.
So now they got to figure their way out through town. And I'm telling you, I deal with tourists all the time, and they can't figure this town out. To me, it's the easiest town to figure out.
It is.
It's a compass.
It's a compass.
Exactly. But people come in here and they can't figure it out.
Well, they can't find a visitor center.
Well, I know. Believe me, I know that.
That's another story. Right. But you're right. It can be confusing if you don't know the layout.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the difference though again is back then it might have been, I'm guessing in some places, easier to see through. Trees. Again,
yeah, sure.
Trees, they block everything.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong, but if you're coming on the west or southwest side of town,
okay,
it might be a little easier to stay in the field because you could see Cemetery Hill.
Yeah,
and there's Smith's Brigade's up on Cemetery Hill.
Sure enough.
So you would recognize, hey, those look like our guys.
Yeah.
Let's go to them.
Yeah.
It's a hill. Let's go to them. So maybe some guys went.
Yeah, I think if you didn't get sucked into the town,
right?
But the problem is, you got to remember what happens. Confederates flank the 11th Corps or the 1st Corps line and push it north.
Oh yes. So they push it into the town.
Basically, when they run back into the town.
Yeah.
Now, Gamble's brigade is there. And that's why Lane and Thomas don't advance with the other two brigades of Pender's division. If they did, probably none of those Union troops would have gotten away.
Right. And so kind of Gamble's brigade is pushing the Confederates north, which pushes...
Or they're making them halt.
Yeah. Right, right. But
so
I'm saying that influence over there on their, I guess it would be the Confederates' right flank, is enough to kind of make them sidle a little to their left and then push the... Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so end of the first day.
Okay.
How many of them are reporting for duty?
Well... let's see. The 121st said initially they had like under 100 men with the colors. I think it was like 75 or something. Then eventually a few more arrive there, but they're going to take. They're going to lose 68% of their regiment, and most of that's the first day.
Yeah.
Okay, most of that's the first day. So you're looking at under 100 men there with the 121st. The 142nd loses 63%. Once again, the first day. Now, these two units, if I remember correctly, were put in the line south of the famous clump or copse of trees,
right,
on what is today Cemetery Ridge, Hancock Avenue. But they did not advance to repel Pickett's division. It was the 80th New York and the 151st Pennsylvania that actually moved to participate in that expulsion of the Confederates from the angle, there. But anyway, they're going to go into position along a stone wall along the Taneytown Road initially. Okay, then that's where they'll be at the end of the first day, and then eventually they would be put in reserve as the Second Corps takes over that line in front of them. Okay, along the Cemetery Ridge. That will not be till the morning of July 2nd. So they did not participate much in the fighting on the second day. They were in reserve.
Right.
Okay. The third day, when Pickett's men advance, as I said, the 80th New York and the 151st Pennsylvania are going to actually participate in the, when they wheel those troops out of the line to advance north into the copse of trees. There was what they, what was it? The 20th Massachusetts was the 19th Maine, 11th or the 15th Massachusetts. The
19th Mass.
Yeah, the
19th and 20th Mass.
Well, the 19th Maine's.
Oh, they're there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're gonna advance. That's why you have those metal.
Yeah.
Bronze tablets.
Right around the copse of trees there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where the monuments used to sit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Explain that to people since you brought that up. I'm sure people are going to wonder what that is. So explain that to people.
Well, when they put their monuments up after the war's over, of course they didn't put it up during the war, but after the war's over, they put the monuments up, and they wanted to put them up, near the angle, because that's becoming very famous, high water mark, all that kind of stuff. And they did advance, push them out. But there's a lot of other units that advanced. Could you imagine all those monuments on Hancock Avenue sitting in the angle? You couldn't get around.
Right.
You couldn't get around. Okay, so Batchelder there and the others in charge of the Gettysburg Memorial Association determined that the monument should be placed where they first formed for battle and with brigade integrity in mind to document the battle lines.
Okay, good.
The battle
good.
lines, okay? And so Massachusetts then was ordered to move those monuments, okay? And
from the copse of trees
down to where they are today.
On the wall.
Yes, but they insisted on having a
something,
marker to show that they were there.
Yeah.
And for years, when I started guiding here, those markers weren't there. They weren't there. And then we get a superintendent who's a historian, and he read the regs on it. It's the trouble. You got all these regulations. People who read these regulations, they find all kinds of stuff.
I know.
But anyway, and they were in storage. And so right before the anniversary, I think it was 125th, pretty sure it's 125th, they moved them up, put them back up.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It just fascinates me that how previous generations viewed these things.
Yeah.
Versus how we view these things.
I know.
Like we it seems to me that now we think that like everything should be out there. Everything needs to be marked and all that stuff. And when previous generations was like, nah, we don't need that there.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good or something. Like there's these goofy.
Well, they weren't too keen on, marking the Confederates.
Well, yeah.
And they did let them put monuments up, which was nice.
Right.
If you don't document the other side, how do you know what happened?
What good is Batman without the Joker?
Yeah,
I always say that.
Well, and the other thing is, think about this. You've been to Fredericksburg, right?
Yeah.
You go to Fredericksburg, they preserved the Confederate line, but they didn't preserve the line between the Confederates and the Union. So if you want to follow the charge, which I think is the most desperate of the war.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. You have to walk through the town.
Yes.
Town wasn't there then.
Right.
Okay, you don't preserve Seminary Ridge, you're going to have buildings there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Of course.
So it's going to look like Fredericksburg.
Well, look at the parts that aren't preserved. What's there?
Yeah.
Buildings, neighborhoods.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
we build wherever we can.
Well, the Steinway Avenue, which is, tourist central.
Yeah.
That was lost in the 1950s. Okay, that was still pretty much open ground till the 1950s.
I don't understand how. See, that's what I don't understand. It's like, how did you let that go?
Well,
money.
Well, and not only that, but after World War II, the park encouraged people to come and build, certainly businesses and other things, Gettysburg, because the park that gets the most visitation gets the most money.
Yeah. Again, it's all about money. But they didn't encourage them to build on the battlefield. That
was the battlefield, but it wasn't part of what the government owned.
Right.
That wasn't park. You're right. That was it. That was where the old racetrack was, the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
That's where it was.
Yeah, and now that's just Cole Park.
Yeah, it's Cole Park.
Yeah, the neighborhood there.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Okay, so the 3rd of July.
Yes.
Now these guys, they're whittled down to basically nothing.
Right.
This brigade.
Right.
And then they happen to be in the area of Pickett's charge.
Right.
And they partake a bit.
Right.
And what happens to them there?
Well, they help repulse the attack. That would be Kemper, Kemper's brigade, which was on the right there, and they went in with, like I said, the Massachusetts guys, and I think they even mentioned the 13th, I think the 13th Vermont, which wheeled out there into the field, so and participated in the relic hunting frenzy after the charge was broken. In other words, all these guys went out and started grabbing things because they knew they just defeated Lee's last attempt to win the battle.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is kind of interesting. There was a 1913 50-year reunion. Mm-hmm. They reenacted Pickett's charge. I had a few guys there that could still walk.
Right.
77-year-old average age. And they advanced up the wall, shook hands. And then the Confederate, then they had reporters ask questions. That's why they come. And one of these guys, a reporter from Richmond, Virginia, asked one of the Confederates if those damn Yankees shot at you in the back when you were trying to get away. You know how Yankees are. They always take advantage. And this old boy looked at him, and he just sort of grinned. He said, "Oh, no," he said, "they weren't shooting much at all. They were too busy cheering." Because they knew they had won. Okay. And so that they participated in that. And I don't know, the casualties there are probably minimal, negligible, maybe 10, 12, something like that. I'm not saying that they didn't get involved, but by the time they advance up in there, the Confederates are pretty much either trying to get away or trying to surrender. So,
right.
Yeah.
All right. And then, so does Biddle's brigade ever get replenished, or do they get absorbed into other units? Or
well, the First Corps is going to be disbanded.
Yeah.
They're going to disband it. It's going to be absorbed into the Fifth Corps, and they're going to be reassigned. And I don't know. I forget what brigade they go into, but they're going to be under Warren.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Grant wanted to concentrate into tertiary because it worked for Lee. Why not for us?
Sure.
And so the Third Corps, which was shot up pretty good at Chancellorsville and Gettysburg, First Corps, which was decimated, get 49.7% losses in the First Corps. First Corps. Let's look at Biddle. When I told you 67%, you look at the top 20 regiments in the fighting at Gettysburg of the Union Army. I would suggest to you could probably find all four, certainly three of them, from Biddle's brigade. The 151st took 73% losses in the battle. They're near the top. Okay, and that would be in Busey and Martin. Remember, he lists them.
Yeah.
Top casualty, 24th Michigan. But I'm sure that Biddle's men are right up there in the. If you're looking at like the college rankings, okay, most of them are in the top 10. Okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So here's in what is this? Brigades of Gettysburg.
Brigades of Gettysburg, sure.
This is the end of the chapter on Biddle's brigade. Biddle's brigade has come under fire for somehow not fighting as hard or as well as the other First Corps units on July 1st. This is unfortunate because the unit did fight as well as can be expected, given its untenable position on McPherson's Ridge with its left flank in the air. In fact, the Iron Brigade was forced to leave its position on the ridge for the same reason. Why Biddle's brigade did not link up with the Iron Brigade remains a mystery, but may have been because of the intense Confederate artillery fire. Biddle's losses were among the highest in the Army. 2/3 were either killed, wounded, or captured. In addition, two of its regiments, the 80th New York and the 151st PA, had the distinction of being the only First Corps units besides Stannard's brigade to help repulse Pickett's charge on July 3rd. The most horrendous total losses were sustained in the 151st, which lost about 75% of its men. This 9-month regiment was just a shell of its former self when it was mustered out of service on July 27th, 1863.
Yeah, and that's something.
So yeah, it's funny, you don't hear a lot about them, but
no, you don't.
And usually you hear a lot about units that had high casualties because everybody's just so obsessed with that.
That's it.
And you don't know about these guys.
Yeah.
And they don't have as good a name as the Iron Brigade.
No, and they fought right next to them.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's like they were never there.
If the red light is brighter than the green one, the red dominates.
Of course. Yes. Yeah. Well, we hopefully will shed some light on, or have shed some light on Biddle's Brigade for you, and you will go and research more about them. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with the questions from our patrons. As you know, if you want to ask a question on one of our Ask a Guides, you got to become a patron over at patreon.com/addressinggettysburg, and we will be right back.
You've heard us promote various ways that you can help us keep the show going. But one way we haven't pushed too much yet is our sutlery at addressinggettysburg.com/shop. And that's a shame, because we have designs over there by talented artists like Ty DeWitt of 1863 Designs and Mike Stretch of the Heritage Depot. So now we're promoting it. Buying shirts, hoodies, mugs, and other items from our sutlery not only helps us keep the lights on, but it also helps guys like Ty and Mike, and it helps spread the word about the show every time you wear an item or sip from your mug. So please, head over to addressinggettysburg.com/shop and grab some merch. You just might find the perfect Christmas gift for the Gettys nerd in your family. That's addressinggettysburg.com/shop. Experience the magic of Christmas in Gettysburg. Stroll decorated streets on a festive walking food tour highlighting the sights, sounds, and unique tastes of this historic town. Enjoy stops at some of the best eateries, all while learning fascinating facts about early Christmas traditions. Admire the glittering lights, decorated storefronts, and our grand 30-foot Christmas tree in Lincoln Square, all adding to the ambiance of the most wonderful time of the year. Get started on Christmas shopping for your loved ones as we visit a few downtown stores that offer one-of-a-kind Christmas gifts. A perfect opportunity for any last-minute gift hunting you need to get done. Enjoy a private holiday tour through the Shriver House with dessert in the Shriver Saloon. This special tour will transport you back in time to Christmases of yesteryear. So make a new Christmas tradition with your family and friends. The Christmas Tastes and Traditions food tour promises to be delicious, delightful, and decidedly local. Go to SavorGettysburgFoodTours.com and book your tour today. That's SavorGettysburgFoodTours.com.
Think outside the bus and let family-owned Gettysburg Tours take you on a cycling journey across the picturesque and historic Gettysburg battlefield. There's no better way than by bicycle to gain a feel for the terrain of the battlefield. Slow enough to see it all, yet fast enough to do it all. Follow the route of Union troops entering the fray as you ride to the site of the first shots of this epic 3-day battle. Feel the drama as you put yourself in the position of a Confederate soldier just before he steps off to make Pickett's charge. Take a stand with the heroic Colonel Chamberlain on the slopes of Little Round Top, just before you view the fields of honor beneath you from its summit. All of our guides are officially licensed by the National Park Service, so don't get a sore neck trying to see out of your car, and saddle up with Gettysburg Tours for a 360-degree view of America's most important piece of real estate. Gettysburg Tours. Think outside the bus. Go to gettysburg.com or call 717-752-7752 to book a battlefield experience you will never forget.
Have you noticed our revamped website at addressinggettysburg.com? Well, that's the fine work of a man named Mike Stretch, and he also redid our logo for us. Both of them I originally designed, and both of them were originally horrible, but now they're nice, and that's all thanks to Mike. Mike has an awesome t-shirt company called Heritage Depot. There you'll find great designs based on Gettysburg and the Civil War with t-shirts and other types of merchandise. So go to heritage-depot.com and spruce up your Gettys Nerd wardrobe. That's heritage-depot.com. Our favorite bookstore in Gettysburg is For the Historian, located at 42 York Street. It's because they have the best selection of Civil War books in Gettysburg, both new and used, and online they have even more to choose from. And if the Civil War isn't your thing, that's not a problem. This is For the Historian, after all. They cover history from the ancient world to the 21st century with a strong selection of World War II and American Revolution books. It's astounding how many thousands of titles from Osprey, Savas Beatty, UNC Press, and more they have in their store. And that's because, well, they have a warehouse too. And that's where they keep all the books that are available online at forthehistorian.com. And folks, if you go to forthehistorian.com now and order books until you're blue in the face, be sure you mention that you heard about them on Addressing Gettysburg in the Note to Seller box, and they will refund your shipping costs. And if you prefer to stop by when you're in town, well, you could do that too. Just mention Addressing Gettysburg at checkout, and they'll take 20% off the retail price of your item. So go to forthehistorian.com or stop by 42 York Street, or you can call them at 717-685-5207. That's forthehistorian.com or 717-685-5207.
All right, we are back, and it is time to ask Charlie these questions that our patrons over at patreon.com/addressinggettysburg have submitted. And let's start off with Tim Dolan. Okay, Charlie, we're going to start with Tim Dolan.
Okay.
He's got two questions. He says, the 80th New York complains about being ordered to remain on the crest and exposed to the enemy fire, while the other regiments took cover behind the slope. Why do you think they were ordered to do this?
Stay on the crest?
Yeah.
Probably to make contact with the Iron Brigade, or at least cover the ground.
Okay. Watch their flank.
I don't know.
Well, you got to have somebody like watching to see what's coming at you, right?
And I'm not sure that maybe the 121st and the 142nd didn't just decide to go back without orders.
Right.
Instead of staying up there on the crest of the ridge. But I do remember him complaining about why we were up there and getting hammered.
Yeah.
And we could have been somewhere else. And then eventually they're going to advance forward to the Willoughby Run and try and get out of that
that's
situation.
Right. All right, second question is, I've read that the 142nd attempted a charge from their East McPherson Ridge position. Is there any reason given for this reckless charge?
Slow down the advancing Confederates there to try and stem the tide, so to speak, and that's what we talked about in the presentation when Cummings gets mortally, he's wounded and died right there on the field, and the little bees hovered around. So I think it was more or less a desperate moment to try and stop the Confederate pursuit at that point.
Okay. All right. Chaplain Cox says, "Hey, Charlie, I'm a big fan. My question concerns the 121st PA on day one. How many times did they have to change their front in order to avoid Confederate artillery?"
Oh, geez. Probably at least 4 or 5 times at least. Yeah.
On the front of their monument is a huge exploding shell. I can only imagine how long they spent receiving artillery fire while exposed on the ridge. The whole brigade had to move quite a bit so they wouldn't be bracketed. Is it recorded how many times they moved? So, okay, it's basically he's just re-asking the same question.
Yeah, I mean, you could, if you take a look at the brigades of Gettysburg, talks about how they moved. There's also the Liano map book that gives a little more, graphic presentation of their positions. But I would say it's probably at least 5. And it's because they're out there on the flank and they're exposed to either artillery. This is the real dilemma the First Corps has when Ewell's men come, because you face one way, you're getting enfilade fire from Ewell, you face the other way, you're getting it from Hill.
It's a bad position to be in.
It really is.
Joe DeFuria asks, says, many people have suggested that Alexander... Okay, now this one here, this I think is going to... There's 2 questions here that are essentially the same from 2 different people. So I'm going to ask them both just so that these guys can hear their names. So Joe says, many people have suggested Alexander Gardner's photo, known as the Harvest of Death, was taken on the first day's field near McPherson's Ridge. Did Biddle's brigade sustain enough casualties on or near that ridge? And is it known if they were wearing the same uniforms as those soldiers depicted? Thanks. Now that's from Joe. Zach in Georgia says, can you ask Charlie what his opinion of the Harvest of Death photo is? I know Scott Hartwig believes that it depicts soldiers from Biddle's brigade and was taken there on the field where they fought. After hearing his arguments, I believe that is where it is too. Does Charlie agree? Does Matt agree? Does Eric agree? Thanks, Zach in Georgia. Okay, so this is open discussion here. Now, we were talking about this prior to the show, and I have to admit that I didn't read the questions ahead of time, so I didn't know that we had 2 questions about this. Yeah. And you said you didn't read the questions ahead of time either, right?
No.
So Eric was the only one who was in the know on that one. But
don't worry, I didn't read them either.
Oh, you didn't read them either. So
it's always good to be surprised.
Yeah. But I was telling you about my argument with Tim Smith Friday night, and we'll get into that. But you go ahead, tell us what you think first. Do you agree with Scott Hartwig or no?
As we were talking earlier, there's no hard evidence to suggest he's wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
There's a couple of problems I have with it. One is I would assume that those bodies would have been buried by the Confederates by the time that the photographers come on July the 6th. That would be my guess. I'm not saying that they weren't buried, but I would assume they would be. The other problem I have with it is that they tend to take photographs in a clump, and all the other photographs that they took southern end of the field.
Right. Oh, you're saying like in a clump, regional, regionally
usually,
where,
as we know, I mean, anyone that studies Civil War photography knows they'll have a nice view, and they'll take different angles.
Right.
Okay, and then they'll move to another spot. So all of a sudden they decide to jump to the first day. Take a picture,
but have you read Scott's article?
Yes.
And so he proposes the possibility that because there was a lot of activity on the Emmitsburg Road with the Union Army, the 5th Corps being out there and everything, that perhaps they took a detour like via Bullfrog Road and that area there. Now, other people have said, well, yeah, but they didn't know where the first day's field was. They didn't know where they were going, Right. And I go, well, my thing is, well, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter. If there's an Army Corps on the road that you're trying to go on, and maybe you run into some of them and they say, you can't come here, you're going to go anywhere else. And you're going to feel your way around until you get to your destination, which is Gettysburg.
Right.
And then along the way, oh, look at this. Here's some dead guys.
Yeah.
And that's the first day's battlefield, and they take some shots there. That's a guess. I don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, why didn't they take more? Of like the Seminary and where Reynolds was killed. And
so that's the other confusion I have is, well, the Seminary, maybe that wasn't that big of a deal at that point. Maybe not. Like now we go, oh, the Seminary. Yeah. But I think that's because of the movie.
Well, no, the Seminary became one of the iconic buildings of the Civil War after the war's over.
It did, okay.
Yeah, that and the Gatehouse.
The Gatehouse, sure.
The Dunker Church.
Right,
maybe the courthouse in Vicksburg.
Right.
I mean, these are things that all Civil War enthusiasts could identify.
Easily recognizable places. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So then, but was it a big deal on July 5th?
That's a hospital.
Well, that's true. That's a good point, too.
Yeah.
All right. But so the thing is now, so Tim and I.
Okay.
Well, hold on. Before we get to that, Eric, what do you think?
I have always thought, even before Scott Hartwig's article came out, that it was, like Biddle's brigade area. And,
you did,
and I like we were talking about earlier when I went and looked at a particular school. When I was a senior in high school, I was making a visit to a college, see if I wanted to go there. They had a class that I audited on Civil War photography, and one of the textbooks was Gardner's sketchbook. So I went to the bookstore, I bought it, and I was looking through, and the Harvest of Death photos are in there, and he says, this is the field near where General Reynolds was killed, and I just always took that as at face value because I can't think of any good reason why you would take a photo of dead bodies out in the field near where General Reynolds was killed, but not take a photo of where General Reynolds was killed, and try to fake the funk with that. It never made any sense to me.
Well, but maybe he didn't
never assumed that
know anybody.
Gardner was lying about the location of it.
You assumed he was lying.
No, I never.
Oh, you
assumed
never assumed that
he was lying about it.
I mean, but the whole thing with why wouldn't you take a picture of where General Reynolds was killed? Well, I'm thinking July 5th. Maybe he ran into someone who said General Reynolds was killed out here, but doesn't know where exactly he was killed.
And the other thing to my mind is you can clearly see there's at least 3 guys in the background of the Harvest of Death photo that are standing around that are clearly a burial detail.
Yeah.
One fell on a horse, but I don't know why there's a dude on a horse sitting in the background of that photo, whatever.
Maybe just to make it interesting.
Where are the burial parties still really active on the 5th? I can't say for sure, but from my understanding is most of the guys that were along the 5th or the 3rd Corps line were buried on the 4th when the 5th Corps moved out there. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure. But I've always felt that this was, the Biddle's brigade line. Now, I never thought it was the 20th New York Militia. I always thought it was like the 121st PA or maybe a mix of 121st, 151st, 20th New York. The thing that makes me think that it's not the 20th New York Militia is all of these guys are wearing 1858 frock coats.
The guys in the foreground.
Yeah, I can't see evidence of a single New York State jacket on any of them. And if you look at the photo that's labeled, the field near where General Reynolds is killed, which is, essentially opposite of this one, you can see one guy's got piece of the attachment hardware for shoulder scales, those big brass bits that come on. They're clearly not New York State jackets. How could we narrow it down? You'd have to get quartermaster returns for any of the suspect units and find out which ones had been most recently issued frock coats, because all of these guys are wearing frock coats. All of them.
Now, so Tim and I went to the Farnsworth house with some friends, and Tim came over to say hi. And he said, "Did you see the new article that someone claims to have used 3D modeling to locate to pinpoint the location of these photos?" Now, and I did, and it's a tease, the article, because it's promoting I believe a book.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you it doesn't flat out tell you, this is where you get the point from looking at the 3D modeling that they had, at least on the website.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is where they mean, but
yeah, but so they do mention breastworks that Paul's brigade made.
I have to be honest with you, I wasn't I wasn't blown away with the 3D modeling.
No, I wasn't either.
I thought, if you looked at the photo versus the 3D modeling they did, they're off.
Yeah.
You can't say conclusively that this is showing exactly this, because
honestly,
it's off.
My feeling is that this book is basically just going to say what Scott says.
Probably.
Okay, but it's just a bunch of hullabaloo to promote the book, but it's nothing that Scott hasn't already figured out himself. I could be wrong. They don't give us enough evidence in this article that I read. But the thing is, so Tim, his argument is, no, it's not. Scott is wrong. And I go, okay, well then what's right? I don't know. So then I go, okay, Tim, I get that you don't buy that he's right, but to say flat out he's wrong, and I'm like, do you have an idea of a region it could be? Second day or south end of the field.
Yeah, the south end of the battlefield.
Okay, south end of the field. Because why? Because most of the other ones are taken there. Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
But also, what Scott lays out is plausible to me. And frankly, and I go, where does it match up? Down on the south end of the field. And he goes, well, some people have matched them up. And I go, have they matched them up, or have they matched up just that one angle? Because there's two angles of the same guys.
Right.
Yeah, and that's
kind
the
of trouble.
The problem is you have to find a place where both views match from essentially the same point.
And Biddle's brigade is that space to me. Right? Do you agree, Eric?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, it looks
both ways.
I'm not a Civil War photography expert.
Eric, everybody's an expert on this show.
You're not a French idiot?
Yeah, we're not a French idiot.
I really
respect
want
his work, but
that forage cap to be closer to the middle of the frame, so it would actually be in focus, and I could actually see what that is on top of that hat. It's
cool.
Yeah. Because it can be anything.
Can you find the reverse of that shot, the other angle?
Yeah, it doesn't really show it.
No, I know it doesn't show the hat. No, I mean, can you just show it? Because landscape-wise, the one that's facing what would be, I guess, northeast, something like that,
right.
Where Mrs. Thompson's house would be, that has more detail in it. Right. There's a lot more in the background.
Sure.
And again, if you
yes
go,
and no, because the
no, you got to get the TIFF. You got to get the TIFF version of it, where it's very high res.
I did, but it's kind of irrelevant, because it's still a tintype, and it's still the middle of the photos in focus, and the farther away you get from center.
Yeah.
But as I was saying to Charlie before, we went out there. My friend Owen the Clapper and I went out there with his laptop, and we zoomed in on the TIFF, and we moved around in different areas, and we got it to line up both ways.
Okay.
And so we're like, I don't understand how people don't see this. And then so my conclusion is, this was my argument to Tim the other night. I'm like, you just don't want to believe it.
Well, there's no rock. You gotta have a rock. You gotta have a rock. Really.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no distinctive terrain feature in the photograph that will give you conclusive evidence it's here.
Except for the lay of the land.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the Mrs. Thompson view, I call it, has more there than the other view, the south view.
Okay. Yeah.
And but I don't know. So okay, so
take
then
the clapper out to the 120th.
Well, no. So now I want to try this. Now I want to go with you because I want you to show me.
Okay.
We'll take the clapper too.
Yeah.
But I want you to show us where you're seeing it, like how you're seeing it and where you're seeing it, and because your theory is what, the 120th New York.
Yeah. Although Eric just blew that out of the water because there's no one wearing.
Well, the 120th New York may not be in the same situation.
Right. They're later in the war.
Well, it's not even that. New York had a weird supply system set up for their militia regiments.
Yeah.
What was it?
They tried to continuously supply them with New York State jackets, which are like a waist length jacket. It has 9 buttons down the front, like a frock coat does, but it's got epaulettes. There's a belt loop on the left side. It's different. It's substantially different.
Fancier,
yeah,
you can tell. But a frock coat is going to come down somewhere between like mid thigh and almost a knee, depending on how long the jacket was on the guy.
Well,
but like these guys, you can tell that somebody has rummaged through their pockets. Like most of them, their pockets are turned inside out.
Yep.
They've been stripped of shoes. Like I don't see a single shoe or pair of shoes anywhere. There's really no accoutrements to speak of. Like there's one guy's got a belt that's been undone and it's laying underneath him still, and there's a cap box, but like all the rest of it's been taken. Cartridge boxes, belts, bayonet scabbards, all of it. It's like all gone.
The bloat on that one guy is tremendous. I think that's why all reenactors are fat, because they saw these pictures and they thought everybody was fat back then. They didn't realize they were just bloated dead guys.
That's a good theory.
Because I'm lazy.
Yeah, but the thing is, if they're going to bury him, they're going to take all that stuff off anyway, right?
Yeah,
sure. But I would expect that if they were going to go to that length where they were going to gather all of this stuff up, they probably wouldn't have left like the belt and the cap box and all that.
So in other words, it looks to you like it's Confederates rummaging through them to just try to get what they need.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I agree with that
wrong.
too.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a good theory.
All right. So then, so Charlie, you're open, but you don't think so, right? Like it could be, but you're not totally sure of Scott's view.
Well, it's one or the other. I mean, both, as we talked earlier, both the Biddle's Brigade and the 120th New York have the same situation. They're flanked so that they would refuse the line, and the way the bodies are laying looks like it was a refused line.
Mm-hmm.
So either one. I tend to lean with Tim on the sense that this is the southern end because they were all in the southern end.
Yeah, that makes.
I see the photographers are kind of consistent in that.
Unless something ruins their plans.
Unless Scott's right, they go around.
Yeah, and then later they were able to go to the southern end.
Yeah.
Now Tim's thing is that the 6th Corps on the 5th is going down the Fairfield Road chasing after Lee's army.
Right.
And so why would...
that really depends on what time of day.
Well, that's the thing, is that was in the morning, wasn't it?
Get here. Yeah.
And Gardner and Sullivan get here in the afternoon.
Well, they were down there.
So that ruins, right? It was afternoon they got here?
I think so.
Yeah. I think it was like around 4 or 5. So then that...
But that's the next day, right? It's on the 6th.
No, they get here on the 5th, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
On the 5th.
And when does Sedgwick go after them?
These series of photos we know were taken on July 5th.
Okay.
That makes sense. We do know that.
Yeah.
Now, on the point of, near where Reynolds was killed, or however he words that, right?
Yeah.
if that was a big deal at that time, if the news of Reynolds' death was a big shock, like Custer at the Little Bighorn, if it was that big of a shock, anywhere on the battlefield is near where Reynolds was killed. Do you understand what I mean?
Maybe that's a hang up for me.
Yeah, well, just remember this.
Because you are so close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you just take a photo of that edge of the woods?
Right.
Like, even if you don't know specifically,
because maybe somebody didn't know
this one square foot section of ground is exactly where Reynolds died.
Yeah.
You but maybe take a photo of the
maybe
end of
nobody
the
they had access to at the time knew generally where he died. Like, well, not generally, but like on a larger sense by the woods. Like maybe they knew that he died out here somewhere.
Well, isn't it part of Biddle's brigade that's on burial detail on that end of the field? On the 5th, Charlie? I feel like that was like 142nd or 121st PA is kind of responsible. Is responsible for burying these dead. You would assume that they would know.
So then, what are the uniforms? Can you make out anything about the uniforms of the burial detail?
No.
Okay, too blurry.
Yeah,
they're just they're.
See, what about in the other angle?
They look like they're in the fog. You're right.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
They're these eerie photos.
No, that's the one I'm talking about. Is the Harvest of Death photo, which is not towards the Thompson house.
Right. But can you make out anything from the guys in the Thompson house one?
No.
All right. I don't know. There's some interesting stuff there. I think this needs to be our life's work. As we need to
just remember, these are the same guys that are staging photographs on other parts of the field.
Well, that's true
Also
too.
True.
Yeah.
But I want to find a place on the South End because the people that are saying that Scott is wrong, they're all saying it's somewhere on the South End. They don't know where.
No.
And they go,
I
well,
don't either.
I'm
just guessing.
And maybe they can.
What if it's neither?
Well,
what
that
if
was
it's
the other
the
thing.
11th Corps?
Oh, see,
a lot of open fields over there.
Yeah.
Like this is the backside of Barlow's Knoll.
There you go. You can start a whole nother
Absolutely.
theory.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I would.
This is the Harrisburg Road in the background. This is the south side or the south face of Barlow's Knoll. This is the 11th Corps.
Let's do that. Let's start that. Maybe it's the Mummersburg Road in the background.
Could be the Wheatfield Road.
Could be. Who knows? No, but you see what I'm saying? Like if you're out where we went for the was that June tour, the May tour, the Schimmelfennig's Brigade?
May.
Right? And there's the Mummersburg Road going up the hill towards the Peace Light in the background.
This is the wrong photo. I don't know why I pulled this one.
I don't either. But anyway.
You're just having fun.
This is the wrong angle.
That was a good question, though. Who was that sent those in there? Let me look here. We had two. We had Joe and Zach. Both
good questions.
Asked that question there. Yeah, I don't know. I
don't know that there is an answer at this point.
I don't either. But for those of you who don't know what we're talking about but would like to hear more about it, go back and look. I believe it's on the free feed. We might have released it back in December. I don't know if I took it down or not, but it's also on Patreon. It's a Scott Hartwig episode.
It's still up.
It's still up?
Yeah.
It's called A Mystery Solved? Question mark. And so you should be able to find it on YouTube, on our free feed, on any of the podcast apps that we're on, which I think is all of them, and decide for yourself. But when you're listening to it, have a copy of these pictures in front of you, both angles, and maybe the Lano map would help too.
Yeah,
I don't know, but yeah, it might. Just have that out there. Anyway, Charlie, thank you very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Always fun to have you on, as I always say, but it so far has not been unfun. So I'll keep saying it until it's not fun anymore.
Well, I'll keep coming back as long as it's fun.
Yeah, there you go. It's mutually assured destruction there.
That's right.
All right, thank you all for listening. Thanks to our patrons for sending in those questions and sparking a lively debate here. And that's it. We'll talk to you next time.
Our hearts so stout have got us fame, for soon 'tis known from whence we came. Wherever we go, they dread the name of Gary Owen in glory. Instead of spa or drink down ale and pay the reckoning on the nail, no man for debt shall go to jail from Gary Owen.
cool.